All right. Hey everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jillian Graber, Executive Director of Protect PT, and I'm just going to take a minute to get our screen oriented a little bit here. We've got some awesome guests with us today, and I'm just trying to get this situated. Okay. All right. Welcome everyone. Is that good? Yeah. Okay. All right, so welcome to our community lunch and learn. We are meeting the creators today of Protect PT's new environmental monitoring app, which is, we are so excited to have these two guys on with us today. We have been working with these two gentlemen for over a year, right? Over a year to develop our monitoring app, which we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how we developed the app, some of the considerations when talking, about how to make this app the most accessible to folks, and really learn a lot more about them and their contribution to our community organizing and our community organization. So welcome, Stephen. We have Stephen Moye. He's a web developer from Pittsburgh, right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And after graduating from Duquesne University, he joined Sun King Interactive Group, and this is Red Agency in 2010. Which he's been working ever since as the long-term senior member of the development team. Thanks so much for joining us today, Stephen, and for all your time working on this app.
Sure.
And we also have Alan Jaquay. He is the UX designer living in Chicago. He attended the designation Flatiron in Chicago for his UX design education. Alan got involved with Protect PT to build the technology that can impact real change. And Alan is a diehard Minnesota Vikings fan. So thanks so much for joining us again, Alan. Welcome. So we are really excited to launch our new mobile app. Like I said, it's been something that we've been working on for a really long time. And so maybe Stephen and Alan, you guys could just tell us a little bit about why this project was something that, when you saw it or when you were asked to participate, it was something that you felt like you wanted to do. And Stephen, we'll start with you.
Okay. So I was approached by a couple coworkers of mine about working with a local nonprofit. Um, and then basically I just said, I'll join to a meeting. I'll hear a little bit more about it and figure out whether it's a good fit. And then I started talking to the team, learning more about what the mobile app was supposed to do, and also what my part in it would be. And it felt like a good fit with my skill set, and it sounded like something that would be really cool, just in terms of having a potential benefit. I say cool. No, I do think it's cool, but it's not necessarily reporting environmental issues isn't necessarily a sexy thing, but depends on who you ask. But sounded like it had the potential to do some good, so I thought that would be cool.
Yeah, and it is true. Like it's not the most exciting thing to think about, but it's exciting to to try to find a way to connect with people. So Alan, how about you? What made you want to get involved with this project?
Yeah, so I'm gonna echo pretty much everything that Steven said there. Additionally, once graduating school, I wanted to get any sort of experience I possibly could. That doesn't mean that I wasn't selective about where I wanted to be working, but I guess I think what really started to grab me was hearing some of these like stories about the people that actually live in the area, and listening to Jillian and company tell us about like how real and like life threatening these issues really are. And that's when I started to really feel like a strong connection to what we were doing. And I was a little nervous. I didn't really know like what I was capable of doing, and wasn't I had no experience actually working with a developer, so I felt like I was in over my head at times. But yeah, I mean, it really comes down to just helping, community and bringing Protect PT into the digital age.
Yeah, and Stephen, Alan, it's funny that you say that because I didn't get that at all. Like that you felt like that you're above your, over your head, because I was just impressed from the beginning with both of you. Um, Alan, we found you through Catch a Fire, which is a platform that we have access to as a nonprofit. Luckily, one of our funders gives us access to this cool platform that connects us with volunteers, and that's how we found you. We posted the position on the Catch a Fire platform, and you were kind enough to answer that advertisement for work. And then Stephen, we were just so happy to be able to connect with you from one of our former employees who used to work with you. And so we were just really happy because before YouTube came on, we had another team that was working on this, and they had made some pretty good progress. But we were kind of at a place where we didn't know where to go next, right? And so it's interesting because for you guys, you came in kind of in the middle, right? And so kind of coming in at the time where we had already started thinking about a lot of these things. What were some of your like initial impressions of what we were trying to accomplish, and like, did you think that we were ever going to get here to have like this finished application? And Stephen, we'll start with you.
Well, yeah, again, so when I was initially brought on, I was kind of evaluating it from the perspective of what could I bring, like where is the project at right now, and can I do what they need to do in order to finish it? Because usually, if if I think I can help with like a small piece, then I'll say that. I'll say, oh, maybe I can help you build out this specific feature. But it seemed like you needed really a new developer to kind of see the rest of the project through. And I thought could be a long-term commitment in terms of like my hours and whatnot, but it sounded like something I wanted to do, and so I just kind of went for it.
Well, we are really happy that you decided to do that because I mean, we were not quite there with the design. It's not really there at all, and Alan really brought that up to the next level. And we'll show you guys some of the work that Alan did in a minute. But like we didn't know where the next step was, and coming from a community organization that um, has a background in connecting with community, but not anything having to do with technical stuff. We were really at a loss. So we were really thankful that you came on and that you just like knocked out of the park, started coding, and it was really coming to life. And so Alan, what for you, like, what was it like kind of coming in the middle of this? And we had already had some initial designs, right? But they were like really bare bones, kind of wireframe designs. And so what were your initial thoughts with coming into it like that?
Yeah, well, my initial thoughts kind of, I guess they changed a little bit as I got going and I realized the resources that I had at my fingertips that I didn't really know existed at the beginning because I wasn't asking enough questions. But when I look back on it, I actually think that you guys had done a really excellent job of laying out the framework for like the structure, I guess, the structure of the way things were going to go. And I realized that this was kind of be more of like a visual or a user interface design situation for me because you guys really had a lot of the grunt work already laid out in place. And I'm referring to the oh my goodness, Jillian, maybe you could help me out with this. I'm trying to think of that like solid gold spreadsheet that you guys had with all the. I, but that made my job a lot easier, so I could kind of focus more on like how do we want this to look and how do we want it to feel. I don't know if this image here is an indicator for me to talk about this at all, but one of the very first things I did was kind of laid out a couple style tiles, and one of the things I like to do, when I'm presenting designs, is to at least come up, bring forth like a couple options, because people aren't always able to like say what they do or don't like about something, and sometimes if you don't like it, that's a good enough reason to like move on and try something new. So I just threw a couple things together. I perused the company website and pulled some of the colors out and whipped up a couple little quick style tiles with some cute imagery. And well, I guess it wouldn't be cute. The one on the left is kind of cute, but the one on the right's not so much. But yeah, that's kind of how I started out, and we got some feedback, and it felt like, I mean, the one on the left is the one that we ended up going forward with, and those colors they just have Protect PT all over them. That's straight from the organization website. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, like, when we started, when we kind of gave you what we had already, we did have that kind of flow and flow chart worked out, but there were still things that even at the end, that when Stephen, when you were coding it, and kind of like looking back from the perspective of a user, that we were like, oh, we didn't think about that, or we didn't really consider that in the beginning. But I really want to take a quick look at the next screen, because one thing that I want to mention to folks is that, and Mary, if you wouldn't mind going to the next one, this is a really important tool, because this tool, what will help people report things that they're seeing in their everyday life around fracking and other types of oil and gas infrastructure. So it's not about just extraction. It could be pipelines. It could be compressor stations. Pretty much any type of oil and gas or environmental issue that you're having, you want to go ahead and report it. And just some of the considerations that we put into this at first was, how do we choose a platform? So like, how do we choose a format that will be accessible to the most amount of people, knowing that not everybody has a smartphone, right? So not everyone's going to be able to go onto or download an application on their smartphone. So that's why we made it. It's actually, help me, is it responsive? It's a responsive
It's a web application.
Yeah, it's a web application. Thanks, Stephen. Yeah. And so just like designing it from that perspective and then coding it from that perspective, do you think it was like easier or more difficult to work on this project because of kind of the vision we had for it? And do you think that we achieved our goal with making something that is most accessible to the most amount of people?
I think making it a web application as opposed to a phone-specific application, it by default it makes it more accessible because it's on the internet. If you have a browser, then you can get to it. Which any kind of phone, even a TV or tablet, whatever, they all will work. So it's not like, oh, it works on the Apple Store but not the Android Store or whatever. So yeah, from my perspective, I build websites for a living regularly. So I wouldn't have called it more difficult to build it this way than if it was built some other way. In fact, if it was going to be like a native iPhone app specifically, that would have been. It wouldn't necessarily be something I'd say no to, but it would be a whole new territory for me because I don't usually do that. But yeah, making it responsive that's these days it's basically a requirement when you're building things on the internet because a lot of people use their phones to browse the internet. Sometimes it's the only thing they use. most people do to at least a little bit of a mix, but some people don't really use computers very much. So being able to use it on your phone is really important, especially given what the app is supposed to do. Having it be mobile friendly, really like focusing on the mobile aspect when people can be out doing whatever they're doing and they're seeing things. And they can report it right then instead of having to go back home and do it on the computer.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to add to that, Alan?
As always, Steven just continues to nail it. So, yeah, I think the thing that I like took away from what he said was, I mean, by default, it does make it more accessible. And yeah, like I think the one thing I maybe, maybe it would work on an Apple Watch. I don't know. We haven't tested that yet, but
Yeah, you know what? I
that's in
should
the weeds.
try it. I haven't tried it yet. I think I can browse on my. That's a good. I think it would be really hard though on the Apple Watch. A lot of applications don't mesh well with the Apple Watch. I will say, but I do think it's really cool that people that let's say I'm on my way to work, right, and I see something that is let's say there's pipeline construction and there's just a real mess on the road, maybe stuff in the air, and just a real mess, which I've actually seen before. I can pull off on the side of the road and snap some pics, and then right there, one of the cool things that Steven put in is the ability for you to tell us your GPS location, which I think is super cool and important, because then you can really have in real time where you are and where you're reporting this from, and then you can snap some pictures, and then you can go on, and we have a couple screens here. So when you log in, we want to know what kind of study or what kind of thing are you reporting? Are you reporting something that has nothing to do with one of our air studies or noise studies, or maybe you are doing an air study at your home, and you notice that there's an odor in the air. You can really report that to us. And so this type of mobile app has a lot of different uses. It can be used in tandem with our monitoring programs, and that's actually one of the reasons why we started doing this. But there are also other things that kind of came up along the way as we were thinking this through, like the fact that maybe you're not doing a study, but you want to report what you're seeing to somebody, and where do you go? Where do you report that to? So we have this set up to really easily report. And Alan, I remember one thing that you kept saying was people don't want to scroll a lot, and so with that in mind, with our goals in mind, what are some of the things from a design standpoint that you think were really important things that we added to the application?
Oof. That's gosh, language. I'm going to start with language. Language is often overlooked. Sometimes it's just not really clear what you're supposed to be doing, and that's yeah. I mean, the language needed to be clear. So when I look at the first screen here is part of a baseline study, what exactly does that mean? The general person probably wouldn't need to worry about that. It would be an independent observation. So those that would need to, kind of participate in these other two options here would have that knowledge going into it. I feel like we could safely assume that. Additionally, just some sort of kind of interactive elements, So when you click on one of these little plus signs, you want that to do something. You want it to change in some way to show the user that they've in fact done something, and it has changed. So there's an indication that what they're doing has a consequence. It's a good consequence, but yeah. So Yeah, I will also say that we wanted to keep this like fairly straightforward and simple to iterate on it like further and with less confusion in the future because our work is certainly not done. There's more that will be done to this. There will be tweaks, but I think the simplicity of it right now lends itself to being pretty easy to navigate for those that are want to actually submit like reports that are going to make a difference. So
Yeah, and I will say, like, one of the things that we thought through too, you'll notice like health impacts on here in the middle screen. We talk with some of our organizational partners and ask them what kind of health impacts should we include in here. And so some of the feedback that we received was, when we present that information, and Alan, you kind of touched on it a little bit, like how do we present that information? How do we communicate that in a really simple, easy way? So like any user would be able to connect with it and understand it. And I think that's really important. So, talking with some of our partner orgs that really hone in on public health, this whole public health section where it says health impacts follows a really specific way of reporting these health impacts that connect with, if you were to print out this report, which you can very easily, right? When you're finished reporting, you can print it out. You can take it to your doctor. And this should be able to, they should be able to look at this report and it should be able to kind of be in a similar format than the questions that they might be asking you at the doctor's office and things that they might want you to tell them and communicate with them. So it's not just about like communicating with us, it's also what comes after that. And I will say, Stephen, you put a lot of work into the end game, like what do they do after they submit the report, and putting in there all the resources for us, something that we hadn't really thought about when we started this. What resources do we have to communicate? We did want to, and this app really solves a big problem. And that big problem is when people see environmental issues, first of all, they don't know where to go to report them. So now they have a place to do that. Second, reporting to an organization, and this has been an issue in the past with, other apps that you can like report to Smell Pittsburgh, and, they'll report it to the government agency. The problem with that is the government agency then doesn't get it from firsthand experience from the complainant. So they sometimes will brush off that information. So this actually, at the end, once you're done your report, you'll have options. And some of those options are really important, like who's next? Who do you complain to next? Because complaining to us, gathers that data, but the next step is even more important, complaining or submitting a complaint with the DEP, the Fish and Boat Commission, your local government. And based on what observation you put in here, it's going to then result in a set of guidelines that residents can take as next steps. And that really connects also with our home resource guide, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But, Stephen, when we were kind of coding this app, and, what were some of the challenges that you saw along the way, whether it be with the coding or just with the way that we, kind of thought through the process?
So when I was first introduced to the project, the previous developers had kind of started on a framework that the site was going to be built off of, but they hadn't really done much with the main functionality. So literally my first focus was working on that main functionality, creating a front-end visual experience of what submitting a report is going to be like, because that's the main purpose of the app. And so that was the first thing I did, and it was the thing that sort of took the most time, and that's the thing we iterate on the most, because we want to make sure that user experience is right. in terms of individual things that just have been the hardest. Frankly, the file upload issue. I've been working on making sure that people can upload whatever files they want through the app. And if you use it right now, technically you're not doing that. If you go to submit, there's a way for you to submit media and images, but they're saying email us for that stuff. But very shortly, that should actually be added in because I did figure out a solution. I'm still tweaking it, which is why it's not in the current live version of the app, but it's very much on its way.
Yeah, and so Alan, for you, what were some challenges that you faced or that you saw with the design of the app?
Let's see here. I would say like the challenges. The challenges are like kind of non-negotiable when it comes to designing things. Like the organization of it, like making sure that I had all my different flows. And when I say flows, I mean like a flow might be like one user's like kind of like journey throughout a report, a submission. So like making sure that I didn't just have a bunch of, or I guess no, like making sure that I was designing like every little part of what every little flow might look like, prioritizing things like what's nice to have and what do we like absolutely need to have. So I remember, gosh, months ago we had a little kind of like an idea that we were floating around where we were like, how loud is the noise? And we wanted to kind of have like a little, like, not a scroll thing, but a little, like, I don't even know what you would call it, but like a little kind of like, it almost looked like a thermometer or
Like a
something,
slider.
a slider. Yeah, a slider. So we were like, do we need to have that? Is that, so like kind of just like coming together as a team and deciding like what was like, is it worth it? Like, how long will it take to like actually like code this on the back end? And just kind of like everybody coming together with their different like backgrounds and technical expertise and like having to kind of communicate to people like we're not sure that this is actually necessary, it might hold us up, so like kind of just pumping out stuff that you gotta have versus like things that are nice to have. And I mean, like, Rome wasn't built in a day. I really hate to use that phrase because it's so cliche, but you got to start out small. Protect PT knows all about that. So, it's just that kind of the slow build and prioritizing like what little update are we going to have and like, like which thing should we update next? And that's happened kind of naturally over the, past year. And I said earlier, it's not done yet. So there's going to be things that are, changed and updated. But that, like, to me is like the biggest challenge is like prioritizing like what comes next,
Yeah, I get that. And I think on the flip side, Mary has a question for you guys. What was your favorite part of creating the app?
I would say just communicating with the team on a pretty weekly basis. I like collaborating, and Alan's a really good collaborator. I'm just going to call you out just because, even though you do give off sometimes an energy of, oh, I haven't done this before, so I don't know if I'm doing this exactly the right way. But he's really gone all out and trying to do things in such a way that he makes it easy for people to work with him, and it's great. And yeah, I like working with the team. People are funny sometimes, and it's a good work team.
Shucks. Yeah, I mean, I'll second that. Like, I mean, just like the pure like teamwork that it takes, like one person can't do everything. So, like Steven and I wouldn't have been able to do this without the rest of the team. Like we would have, like
Very,
we need guidance, we need input because, Jillian and co are the ones that are like on the ground, like doing the stuff behind the scenes that that's what's going to get this to take off. It's not just the fact that it exists. It doesn't mean a whole lot, right? So their outreach and their campaigning and all that stuff. But honestly, I really think that just like watching, like me presenting an idea to Steven and getting him like involved in the design process. So like I'll just be like, at a certain point I was like, this might be cool, and he's like, yeah, I got you, and then he'll like do it, and I'll be like, that's exactly like what I would have. That's exactly how I wanted it to look. That's crazy, you know? So, like, what Steven does is pure magic. Like, I'm convinced of that. So, like, seeing my designs, make it into a, like, actual, like, working, like, product is, like, really cool. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, I get that, and it was so much fun. Like, so we have meetings all the time, all week long on Zoom. It gets so monotonous. It gets so, it's like it's really hard because we've never actually met in person, which is weird. But like it's crazy because when we started this, it was like I think like right before COVID started. And we had been working on it, because you all are we're all in different places, and so just like because of geography, we just needed to connect online. But then like coming to the meeting every week was so much fun. This is a fun team of people, and so like just to kind of name out like the roles, we have like Alan is the designer and Steven is the coder. And then like our team consists of, our environmental scientist. And so that's like the person that's actually going to be using the data, right, to take action in the community. And then like Mary and Patrick are, working on things like outreach and like how do we present this to people? How does it work? How do we get it out to people? And just like, it's just a huge collaboration of all these ideas that really have come together in this really great way. And it's something that I think that, our like tiny little organization would not have access to, otherwise. When we first started thinking about this, we were like, this is a great idea. Nothing else exists like this. Like there are other apps out there, that other organizations have. And actually that was part of like starting to look at what already existed, because we don't want to like reinvent the wheel. That's silly, right? And there are other apps where you can put pictures, like report pictures and give them give them reports of what's happening, but like nothing else will connect with an environmental scientist. So like nothing else will connect with someone that's actually doing air studies and noise studies. Nothing else will give you feedback of, okay, you just told us that something crazy is going on in your neighborhood and this is what you need to do about it. Nothing else is going to tell you that. So this is kind of a unique and very different application than what already exists out there. And when we started, we, shopped around and tried to find out, like, how can we make this happen? And it was so expensive that it was really cost prohibitive for us to be able to do this, as a really small organization. And you guys made that happen. So we are just so like entirely grateful. And I always get really, emotional because this is something that connects us. Like you guys have made it possible for us to achieve what we thought was, virtually impossible, a year and a half ago. So we're just so excited and so grateful to have you guys. Of course I'm getting, emotional about it, but it was a lot of fun and it was a huge process, and we're really happy with the end result. And so what's next? Like what comes next after we're like officially launching the app and we've got some videos to put in there and stuff. What are some other things that we need to do and or that we want to do?
Well, like Alan said, it's not completely done, even though it's launching. There's still extra little pieces that we're going to be working on, little things about the user experience that we want to improve to make it easier for the users to know where they are in the process. And you were saying the videos. I think having like an intro video and a guide through of what the app is for and how you're supposed to use it, I think just makes it that much clearer for people. Yeah, those are what I know off the top of my head.
Yeah. Stephen kind of touched on it, like in each, in when a user's going through it, like one of the things that we've been kind of like bouncing back and forth is like having like a little visual indicator at the top of the screen, perhaps that would say like step 1 of 6 or step 1 of 4, because not every single report has the same amount of steps in place. So like the amount of information needed to gather, the amount of data needed to be gathered from each user like varies depending on like if they're reporting on vibrations or like truck traffic. So like each one of those things has like a different amount of steps. So having like a little visual indicator at the top that lets a user know like where they are in the process and when they can expect to complete it. And and just kind of going through and like trying to break it, seeing how like what we can try and do to. And I've tried thus far. I haven't been able to break it yet. But that might sound a little intense, but just like going in all different directions, pushing all the buttons, seeing what happens. So there, there's further testing. Testing is always good. Test early, test often, as they say. So, yeah.
Testy Testerson. So when
Yeah.
when we set up, did our tech check, because Alan was logged in a lot as Testy Testerson testing the app. That's what his name came up as. So it was a funny, and it was kind of a really what the mode that we've been in for, I don't know, for the last couple, maybe the last month or so, just trying to get feedback from users. We talked to some of our partner organizations. We talked to some of our members, our board members, and other members that might want to report things. People that have reported things in the past, so people that have already kind of gone through this process to find out, like, is this easier? Is this better than what you've experienced in the past? Does it fulfill the goals that you wanted it to? And so our feedback was really great. We got some great feedback already on the app about how great the tool is, how people really are going to be able to use the information to take action in their community, and to report to the agencies, because I cannot stress enough, like with the Department of Environmental Protection, right, the agency that's tasked with like overseeing this type of development, they are so understaffed that there is no way that they can have an inspector. They might have hundreds of sites that they have to inspect, right, within an area. So there's no way that they're going to ever see everything. And so the best people to see things are the people that are living right next door to this infrastructure, the people that are, driving on their way to work and pass something that they know doesn't seem right, that they know doesn't look right. Or, they can't sleep because there's so much noise. That's happened a lot in the past, where people cannot sleep. And who do you go to, like, when you can't sleep? And so we do talk about that. And Mary, if you wouldn't mind going to the next screen, we do talk about that a little bit in our home resource guide. So just to let folks know, this app works with a lot of the other different educational programs that we offer at Protect PT. And so one of those things is the home resource guide, where we teach folks how to document and report problems, and where to go to for that. But this app, like, you won't need the guide to tell you when you're, when you're on the go, this guide is, it's a home resource. So it's going to be at home. It's, you're going to look through it. You're going to hopefully retain some of the information that we've gathered for you. Use it as a resource going forward to make sure that, you know who to contact if there's an issue, or what do you do about air pollution? How do you remediate it? What if there's an emergency evacuation in your neighborhood? What do you do about that? Who do you contact if you see something like an emergency? And we will say, and we stress that, I think, like in the beginning of the app, right? We had to say, like, this is not an emergency reporting tool. Kind of like the basics, like call 911 if you see an emergency. And we don't want anybody to see an emergency and stick around to take photos when they should be, like, getting out of town. So we had to think about those things too, right, guys?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you think that, like, was something that maybe we hadn't thought about initially that you felt was, like, really important in the end product? Steve, Alan, I know you were talking about, like, the little progress bar across the top that we're working on now. When you said that, like, a light bulb kind of went off, and I was like, that is such a smart idea. What other things do you think are, like, really good ideas or really important things for the app for people to know?
I mean, nothing stands out off the top of my head. I feel like we've talked about a fair amount of how it works. If something comes up, I'll chime in.
Yeah, I guess I think one thing that Jillian touched on earlier is, like, I mean, like, what it took me a little while to, like, kind of understand, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but, like, to kind of, like, understand that, like, the real, like, value proposition is, like, pointing people in the right direction, paired with getting that data over to the environmental scientists. And the more I think about it, the more I just think that this is, like, a really nice blend of, like, technology, but also having, like, a real, like, group of people on the other end that are, like, going, that are, like, real people that you can talk to and communicate with. It's not just like you punch your ticket and then, like, hopefully something changes. This is, like, a nice little blend of, like, new school and old school, where, I mean, what Protect PT's been sending out, like, paper, forms to people to fill out, and it's just cool. I mean, some people might still opt in to do that, right? But, like, it's good to have different channels for different walks of life. And this, to me, just provides, like, it provides another option for people that, really maybe, like, a little more gung-ho about getting out there and doing it. So hopefully, you have some vigilantes in your area that are gonna, like, really, like, go all out with this, and hopefully that you don't get inundated with too much information in the spreadsheets that we were able to download from these results or these submissions. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a really great way, another channel for people to, interact with Protect PT and their, and the resources that they have available to them that they wouldn't have necessarily known about.
Yeah, we call them watchdogs, not vigilantes. Although I don't know, I don't want to advocate for anybody to be a vigilante, but I love the attitude behind it, because there are some people that are watchdogs in the community, and they just, like, they'll post videos online about stuff happening in real time. On social media and other things that we you see it and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's happening. And a lot of folks are now comfortable with using social media and with using apps to like post videos of things that are happening in real time that we as, a society might think that are like socially unacceptable, or, in this case, unacceptable for public health, for maintaining good public health. It's unacceptable to have a ton of air pollution. And I can remember the first time the first well pad was proposed and built in Penn Township, where we are. There was a billowing cloud of this silica dust, and we were just awestruck at like, well, what is it? What do we do about it? How do we report that? I mean, we didn't really at the time even understand what it was, because we didn't know what we were looking at. When you look at this infrastructure for the first time, you might not understand what's going on. But if you can take a picture of it and tell somebody that is familiar with what's going on, like a staff member of Protect PT, then they can say, oh, okay, so that's silica dust. You don't want to be around that. That's going to cause long-term lung damage like silicosis. You want to, report that right away to the DEP, because that is a huge environmental violation. Like hazmat should have been called out. Like this is a crazy situation where, this is a huge environmental toxin. It's well documented, and it was just like present in the air, and nobody cared, or people cared, but they didn't know what to do about it. And so like this kind of really makes sure that doesn't happen again. So Mary put the link to the new reporting tool in our chat, and I just posted it up on the screen for folks. So, I mean, it's really easy. You can actually do a shortcut on your phone if you want. I have a shortcut on my phone. It's right there, and it has like the little Protect PT logo, but you click on it, it goes right to the interactive site, and you can start a report. And because of our team's savvy, like Stephen made it possible. So if you already have a Google account or a Facebook account, it logs in with either of those things, or you can log in independently if you don't have one of those. You can do this from any kind of application, from any kind, from Safari, any kind of browser, Chrome, whatever you want to do. You just go online and type in report.protectpt.org, and you will be able to report what you're seeing and what's happening. And after that, you'll most likely, be contacted by email or by phone if you provide that information to us, or, and you'll be able to get that feedback of, this is what you do next. You report this because it could contaminate the water. It could contaminate the air. This is what's happening in real time. And so it's really an important thing to interact with your community in this way. And this is how we can build power, by building the people that are behind what's happening in the community. And you can also go online and sign up for our next home resource guide workshop. So that's important too. And Mary put that in the chat. And then if you'll go to the next screen, Mary, we want you to let us know what you think about the Lunch and Learn. So our Lunch and Learn, we have every month, the last Tuesday of the month during lunchtime, so folks can interact with us and find out more about the work that we do. So definitely take our survey. Tell us what other types of content you'd like us to explore on our Lunch and Learn, and tell us what you think about the Lunch and Learns we've already had. And the cool thing is you can always go back to YouTube and watch it later. So if you missed it in real time, and maybe you have questions for Stephen or Alan, just let us know. You can email us, email me at jillian@protectpt.org, and please use our app, because these guys have put a tremendous amount of work into this awesome tool for everyone to use. And we just thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts that we have this wonderful tool to use. And we're just, it was a great and fun project, and it's kind of sad that it's almost done. I mean, I know we still have a little bit that we're working on, but we've come so far. So it's also really exciting to be able to have it, for people to use. So any
It's
last,
always so exciting.
sorry, I was just going to say, any last words before we head off?
Yeah, I was just kind of following up on what you said. It's exciting that it's launching, and we're excited to have people using it and getting data.
Yeah, this has been one of the great privileges of my existence to help out with this and work with you guys. It's been pretty freaking cool, and it's not just cool, but let's not forget that it is very cool. But yeah, it's just been, I don't know, it's been awesome helping you guys bring this to fruition.
Well, we love you guys, and we thank you so much for your hard work. And yeah, use the app. Let us know what you think, and be looking for some changes in the future. And thank you guys so much for joining us today on our Lunch and Learn. And thanks so much for all your hard work. And we'll talk to you later.
That